These little critters are social and love to play. On this episode of the Paw Report, we turn our attention to the rodent and weasel families. A returning guest we like to call the reptile guy stops by our studios to talk about the cost, housing, and diet for these small pet-friendly animals. Stay with us. Production of the Paw Report is brought to you by
Dave's Decorating Center is a proud supporter of the Paw Report on WEIU. Dave's Decorating Center features the Mohawk Smart Strand Silk Forever Clean Carpet. Dave's Decorating Center, authorized Mohawk Color Center in Charleston.
Okaw Vet Clinic in Tuscola and Dr. Sally Foote remind you to properly take care of your pets and are happy to help support the Paw Report on WEIU. Okaw Vet Clinic located at 140 West Sale Street in downtown Tuscola. More information available at okawvetclinic.com.
Welcome everyone to this episode of the Paw Report. Now, I'm sure our guest looks familiar. It's Kyle Thompson, and we normally refer to Kyle as the reptile guy, but today you're kind of the, what shall we say, the rodent guy. Kyle brought with him a few friends with him today that we're going to talk about and have a fun discussion about, not, I guess you could say, not so traditional pets you could bring into your family. Is that kind of accurate? When we talk about rodents, most people try to get rodents out of their house, not bring rodents into their homes, but
Absolutely.
they can make friendly pets. And you brought along a hamster today, a guinea pig, and a ferret, all in one. So we're going to start with the hamster. Who'd you bring today?
This here is Teddy. Teddy is a Syrian hamster. Mm-hmm. Come here, little one. And these are typically
snacks,
referred to as a teddy bear hamster. Originally, they were known as a golden hamster. They've since lost that golden coat to them. You can still find it, but through selective breeding and more so preference, once you can get colors quite like this, they kind of became known as the teddy bear for the size and the softness of the coat.
Now, they are part of the rodent family, and what can you tell us about their species? They're nocturnal.
Absolutely.
And they have expandable cheek pouches, is that right?
The cheek pouches actually extend all the way to the shoulder. And,
are you kidding?
What that allows them to do is store food in it, and typically what they would do in their wild, and a little bit of natural history for you, is they'll take it back to their burrows so that there's no competition for food. In a home setting like that, you'll usually find them in their hiding spot with hordes of food around them from all of what they've done, and that's still kind of a throwback to their days in the wild.
Now, are they, obviously, they're friendly.
Sometimes it takes some work with them.
What do you mean by that? Takes some work. Do you train them like a dog?
It's the same principles. What it is a lot of times they're a flighty animal. It's not so much that they're an aggressive animal, it's that they're nervous, and that's where a lot of the bites come from that you'll see. A lot of aggression comes from misunderstanding. Constant handling and a little bit of respect for their private space will go a long way. And you can see with Teddy here that she's pretty easygoing with me.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned when you opened up the cage, you said that she was a particular species of hamsters. Mm-hmm. Remind me again of what that is and how many different species are there?
There are numerous species of hamsters. Just off the top of my head, there's Chinese robos. The robo's a robovorsky, not a robot. And then you've got your Syrians. Those are typically the ones you'll find.
Most popular.
The Syrians tend to be the more popular out of all of them for really I think it's their size and their disposition. Although Chinese dwarf hamsters are relatively easygoing as well.
What should you consider? I'm thinking about bringing maybe a non-traditional animal into my home, and hamster comes to mind. What should I consider before just opening the wallet and going out and getting a little creature like this?
What you have to understand about them is they are nocturnal, so throughout most of the day you're not going to see much of them. And at night they do become very, very active, so you kind of almost want to avoid keeping them in a bedroom, or else they will drive you crazy with a wheel and sipping on their water bottle all night, and their foraging habits too. Another thing you need to keep in mind is they actually are pretty intelligent animals. You want to keep them mentally stimulated. Biggest mistake I see with them a lot of times is very, very small cages. And what that does for them is it kind of gives them a limited amount to do. And that's whenever you'll see stress, a lot of chewing. That's when you can get some aggression issues as well.
Let's talk about their homestead, what a person would need. So I get my hamster, but I want to make them healthy and happy. What supplies would I need? And let's talk about setting up their cage and what kind of toys and food that they should have.
Wood chews are an absolute must with them. Hamsters' teeth, much like the guinea pig that we've got with us as well, never stop growing. So what they need to do is they need to chew to wear that down. If that doesn't happen, what can happen is you can get an abscessed tooth. It's where the tooth will grow backwards. Sometimes you can actually see in extreme cases it'll reach the eye socket. Apart from that, tunnels do really well. As you can see, there's a cotton-like nesting material in there.
You can put Teddy back in there if you'd like and let him crawl around, and as you're talking about it.
We'll let her hang out in
You
there.
said some nesting material. I had no idea about nesting material.
Yeah, in the wild, they're burrowers, and they really like a very, very particular home, and that's pretty unique to each individual hamster. A lot of times it's a real good idea to give them something like that, or pieces of paper, anything they can really shred and bring back into their home to make it their own.
Obviously, you've got water and you've got food. What is their... Teddy just crawls right back down into the nesting material. What is in the food dish? I think it's funny. It looks like just a little miniature dog dish.
Yeah, something very similar. What they actually eat is it's a seed diet in there mixed with alfalfa pellets. That's not a staple diet. Typically what you want to do is feed them some fresh greens as well. Anything broad and leafy, collard greens, mustard greens, some kale, stuff like that actually will balance out the diet. A lot of what your seeds are in there, your sunflower seeds and such like that, are kind of like candy to them. A lot of fat, a lot of flavor, not a whole lot of nutrients.
You have some toys in there too, and you had a little hut. Do they like enclosures and do they like toys? I guess I would have never guessed that.
The hiding huts are a throwback to their days as burrowers, and what it does is it gives them a small space to feel secure in, and that'll be their go-to for protection. The wheel here is there for mental stimulation, keeps them from going crazy from boredom, really.
How long would your typical hamster live?
You're looking at about 2 to 5 years. 5 is a pretty elderly hamster.
Do you have to vet them?
It's a good idea too if you can find a small vet or an exotic animal vet, because you can get a lot of similar problems from cats and dogs that you can get with a hamster, and that's your respiratory infections and certain cancers are kind of common with them.
Now, you mentioned they don't live all that long, but they're very enjoyable to have. Can you have more than one in a cage? And if you do that, how do you kind of acclimate them to another little buddy with them?
I would typically suggest keeping them solitary. They like their own personal space, and unless they're litter mates, and usually of the same gender, you run into some territorial problems. If you really, really want to try and get away with it, what you'd want to do is you'd want to give them a very, very large enclosure with something spaced out so that their shoulders can't fit through it.
Now, how would I know? Obviously, I think your first instinct is to go to a pet store to get a hamster. Are there hamster breeders out there? And
Absolutely.
What should you look for to make sure that you've got a healthy and a hamster with good temperament?
A lot of times what you can tell through a hamster is the eyes. If they're clear and bright and alert, it's a good indication that you've got a healthy one. Another one you should look at is hamsters typically are kind of chubby, but you don't want a fat hamster. Fat hamsters can lead to some health issues down the road. And likewise, you don't want to find one that looks too skinny, like it's emaciated. It's a good idea if you can to make sure that it's eating and drinking regularly. And typically all you have to do is offer them food and water and they'll go right for it.
And they'll go right to it. Well, as we let Teddy scurry away in his little bedding, I'm going to have you get out the guinea pig, and that's Reese's, right?
This is Reese's.
And I'm sure our viewers will understand why his name is Reese's when he comes out of his little habitat there. And I think it's cute how they have carriers just like cat or a dog would have. Now this is Reese's, and I know absolutely nothing about guinea pigs. So let's start from the beginning. Again, they're part of the rodent family, correct?
Well, they are neither from Guinea nor are they a pig.
So where did that come from?
They originated in Peru, actually, and the guinea pig that you see now on the pet trade is a result of hybridization from several members of the cavy family. These are actually a cavy, not a guinea pig, even though guinea pig is a common name for them. And they've actually got a lot of cultural significance where they're from. They're used in folk medicine. They believe that rubbing guinea pigs on a person can cure certain ailments. Certain body parts, when consumed, act as a sort of folk cure for certain things. And they are farmed for food in certain places. A little bit of strange natural history on those ones.
Sure. What are their characteristics?
Characteristics is they're typically pretty talkative.
Talkative.
They'll make a lot of weird warbles and squeals whenever they're happy. A lot of times if you get them to get real comfortable with you, they'll start purring kind of like a cat will.
Huh. Do you train them? You know, we talked about you have to kind of handle a hamster gently to get them used to you, but you said that this isn't your guinea pig, and Reese's looks pretty comfortable with you. So what do you have to do to acclimate your guinea pig when you get it home to make sure that it's in a safe environment for them?
When they first come home, and this goes with any animal, usually give them about 2 or 3 days of acclimation time, and that's just let them get used to their surroundings, what's going on around them, because they'll need to learn kind of what schedule goes on around them and adapt to that. Guinea pigs are a typically pretty flighty animal to begin with. As you go in to reach for them, they'll start scrambling around, but usually once they're out, like Reese's here, they'll chill out.
Mm-hmm. What about temperament and diet for them?
Their diet is very similar to that of the hamster, minus the seeds. A lot of the common foods you'll find are in pellet form, and what they are is compressed alfalfa grass. You can supplement that with actual harvested alfalfa grass, as well as certain greens. The same that would work for a hamster here will work great for a guinea pig. And a lot of raw vegetables. You want to avoid anything with too much citric acid in it, but carrots, apple, collard mustard greens, stuff like that works fairly well for them as well.
Can you put more than one in a habitat? Do they like each other?
They're very social animals. As a matter of fact, whenever they have babies, if you were to remove one baby, they'll all look for that particular one, and when you put it back, they'll greet it.
You are kidding. And how big do they get? What is their weight, and how long do they live?
About 5 to 8 years is average for these. I actually had one growing up as a kid who lived to be 9, and that's kind of unheard of for these guys. But with proper care, you can usually bank on about 7 to 8 years with them.
And how much do they weigh? Do they get very big, or is that pretty much full size?
You can probably find one about double this size. Reese's here is only not even a year old yet.
Reese's, you're cute, and you're staring at all the lights and all the people in the studio here today. Now, what about living arrangements for a guinea pig? Is it much like you would have to have for a hamster? Is it a big cage, a smaller cage?
As much space as you can give a guinea pig. It's bigger is always better when you're looking at an enclosure. As a matter of fact, some of the best ones I've ever seen have been more of a pen than a cage. Just walls in a wide area, keeping them in, usually with their bedding and their various hide spots and toys.
Is that another animal that you should vet? You know, we have vets on a lot, and we talk about cats. And I know cats and guinea pigs aren't similar, but the moral of this question is a lot of people don't take their cats to the vet because they don't see signs of problems. But again, you should probably have them checked out. Is that true?
Absolutely. A large problem that you'll find with these guys is underneath their fur, you can kind of get a little bit of moisture to them, and they'll contract ringworm pretty quickly. And as you may or may not know, ringworm can communicate between species pretty quickly, especially if you've got more than one guinea pig. You can usually guarantee if you don't treat it pretty quick, they're all going to get it. Respiratory illnesses are kind of common with these guys as well. You'll see nasal and ocular discharge, kind of a thick mucus. And problems like that are pretty easily avoidable with correct care, but if they were to get that, you definitely need to get them vetted and get them on antibiotics of some kind or an antifungal if that's the case.
I come to you, Kyle, and I say, I don't know if I should get a hamster or if I should get a guinea pig. And your opinion would be what and why?
That will all depend on how much attention you plan on giving them. Neither one of them require a whole lot. However, if you just want an animal that you'll be able to interact with through wires, I'd go with a hamster. If you want to get something that's actually going to want to be out and get attention from you, definitely go with a guinea pig.
Another animal that probably wants attention, as I'll let you put Reese's back in his little travel carrier there. We're going to switch over to the ferret, and the ferret is part of the. It's part of the.
They're actually part
skunk,
of a weasel.
A weasel family, and you brought one with you today, and his name is.
This is Nigel.
Nigel. Okay. As we reveal to our viewers, Nigel, he's sniffing the end of the
He'll be out
of the
before I
little
can
carrier.
get it out.
He's excited to come out.
Come
Hello,
on, buddy.
Hello there, Nigel. All right. Well, he's pretty. So this is a ferret. What breed or what species of ferret is Nigel?
He's actually just a ferret.
Well, Nigel, I thought you were going to be some prima donna there, but I guess not. So tell us about the ferret. Again, you know, these are non-traditional pets, and I think people want to know, hey, is this something that I would like to bring into my family?
Personality and care-wise, a ferret, you're looking somewhere between a cat and a dog. If you can't decide between a cat and a dog and you want something kind of on the smaller side, you can't go wrong getting one of these guys.
What is their temperament?
They are a very feisty animal. They're actually a natural predator, and what they'll do is they hunt animals very similar to what we've got sitting over
Don't
here.
put Nigel next to Teddy.
And because of that, you'll see a whole lot of interesting behaviors that they'll do. One of them is the weasel war dance. Get them stirred up. And
Wait a minute. The weasel war dance.
The weasel war dance.
Are you going to do that for us, or have Nigel do that?
He's a little
for
better
us?
at it than I am.
What is that?
Essentially what it is they will hop and then they will flop on the ground. It's kind of a sideways hop and then they'll roll. It's a real floppy motion, as you can see kind of in his demeanor. He's kind of a floppy creature.
What's the little coat he's got on?
It's actually his harness. You can clip a harness to him, keep him.
And walk him around?
Yep, they'll actually do pretty well on a leash if they get acclimated to it.
Now, what type of habitat should you prepare for old Nigel there? You said that they were curious, so I suppose you just don't want to open up your home and say, have at it, because they like.
You can.
You can.
You can.
I thought they liked like rubbery items and cords and.
They're thieves. Small shiny objects will disappear. Whenever we had them, they used to steal quarters, guitar picks from me. They used to steal all kinds of small little items and hoard them in their cage. And what you want to look for with a ferret is a very, very large cage. Some of the best you can find are they're about a 3-tiered cage with ramps so that they can get from the top to the bottom. But yeah, if you wanted to, they'll actually litter train.
Just like a cat.
Just like a cat. You can give them a corner pan like you would for a rabbit, and they'll typically train themselves on that. They kind of like to keep it all in one area anyway. But if you open up your house to them, they will do free range, but you have to keep in mind if there's a surface that they can stick their nose in, it's almost a guarantee that they can slip their whole body in it.
You're wrangling rodents, and oh, that's why we like to have you on, Kyle. Now, what about? Okay, so I let a ferret run my house, and I also have a dog and a cat. Are they gonna all get along and play nice, or?
They can. I've got a border collie and just a run-of-the-mill domestic short-haired cat, and they both got along with my ferrets. As a matter of fact, my border collie would actually play with them as if they were another dog.
What kind of temperament do they have? You mentioned the guinea pig likes to kind of bark and purr like a dog or a cat. What about this? I tell you, they're feisty, all right. He's all over the place.
A lot of times what they'll like to do is they'll they'll challenge you. They'll try to get you to wrestle with them, even though you outweigh them by quite a bit. But they have a tendency to be nippy, and a lot of times it gets misconstrued as an aggressive action. And usually what it is they just want to play. They're little bundles of energy, and they just want to play.
I was going to ask, because I think probably folks out there watching might say, yeah, I don't know if I want to have that, because they may bite. Now, if they, do they bite, and could it be something that could be not a good thing for?
It can be pretty painful. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but you can actually see he's got some pretty sharp little fangs in there.
He's got some fangs in there.
And what they like to do is whenever they get real stirred up, they'll do kind of like an alligator. They'll do the death roll, bite a hold of it, and then they'll just spin.
Oh, my.
And that can hurt.
Now, is it something that is harmful? Could it be harmful to you and me?
They can break skin. And obviously, anytime you get bit by an animal, you'll want to clean that out. Typically, they're all bred by marshals. As a matter of fact,
now, what do you mean by bred by marshals? I don't know.
You have to actually have a breeding permit if you were to breed ferrets, and the #1 breeder of them is Marshall ferrets. And you can actually tell if you've got one by them because there will be 2 tattoos in the ear. They do have a scent gland, and it gives them kind of a musky smell. And you'll have one in the ear for removal of a musk gland, and another one if they're spayed or neutered. And marshals will do that.
Now, not all states actually allow ferrets, do they?
No, they are outlawed in some states.
Why would that be?
To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure. What I think it is it's that they're kind of invasive. If they were to get out in certain states, they'd be able to thrive and survive. And these guys will take down mice and rats real quick, and they can kind of outcompete some of the local wildlife.
Do they have some illnesses too that you should look out for? And again, we talk about making sure that you vet your pet. I'm sure that they get sick too.
Yep, they can actually catch the common cold or the flu from us. If we were to ever interact with one while sick, they can catch that.
Do they have vaccinations? Should they be vaccinated?
If you take them to the vet, they can give you a good round of all of that, kind of help them keep immunized from the common stuff that you and I would carry.
Hi. They just have this look that you just have to get used to.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't know if what they're going to do or what they're going to say. But you said that you can actually let them roam, but maybe the best thing is to get a cage to keep them.
It's good to give them some out of cage time to kind of burn off some of that energy. A lot of times your aggressive ferrets are ones that have too much time on their hands.
And they're okay with each other?
They are. A lot of times what you'll see with them is they have to actually establish a hierarchy, kind of a pecking order amongst themselves. And the way that they'll assert dominance over each other is there's a nerve right here that kind of makes them go slack, and they'll grab a hold of each other on the back of the neck and drag. They're
well, cats and dogs do the same thing. So, somebody's got to be in charge, right?
And they seem like they're almost impossible to hurt. I've seen some of these guys take a nosedive off of couches after each other, and they're perfectly fine.
Well, I tell you what, it's so much fun having you come in and watching you wrangle animals. And we so appreciate you coming in today, bringing Nigel and Teddy and Reese's, and I'm sure that they'll be glad to get out from under these lights and head back home to their habitat. So Kyle, thank you so much for joining us.
No problem. Always a pleasure to be here.
It is always a pleasure. And thank you for joining us for this special edition of the Paw Report. We'll see you next time. Did you know dog bites are preventable? Holly Furfer has some tips in this Paw Report Extra.
According to the ASPCA, half of all kids will be bitten by a dog before they turn 12. Now, not all dog bites are severe, some are just nips. But nearly 800,000 people require medical attention because of a dog bite each year. Animal trainer and behaviorist Victoria Stillwell teaches kids and their parents the right way to interact with dogs.
Children, naturally gregarious, they are loud, they have their body movements and their arms and run around and high-pitched voices, and this could all really elicit a negative reaction from your dog.
When children meet a friendly dog for the first time, teach them to offer an outstretched fist for the dog to sniff before you pet him. And always pet dogs under the chin. Patting a dog on the top of the head could be seen as a sign of aggression.
If you stare at that dog, that could be seen by the dog as a threat. If you smile at that dog, you're showing your teeth. That could be seen as a threat.
Other tips to prevent dog bites: never allow a child to put their face near a dog's face. Never lunge at a dog or back her into a corner. And look for signs that the dog is uncomfortable: a tense body, an erect or slowly wagging tail, or yawning and licking their lips.
Production of the Paw Report is brought to you by
OCA Vet Clinic in Tuscola and Dr. Sally Foote remind you to properly take care of your pets and are happy to help support the Paw Report on WEIU. OCA Vet Clinic located at 140 West Sale Street in downtown Tuscola. More information available at ocavetclinic.com.
Dave's Decorating Center is a proud supporter of the Paw Report on WEIU. Dave's Decorating Center features the Mohawk Smart Strand Silk Forever Clean Carpet. Dave's Decorating Center, authorized Mohawk Color Center in Charleston.